Hi, this is Z for eminingwizard.com and marketwizards.com, minding traders to use risk capital you can afford to lose. We're in about 15 minutes into the open. I think we need some time to consolidate. The idea of waiting that first couple of minutes to see if we got a better option for buying rather than just trying to close your eyes and buy the open was to wait and see if you could buy it at 52 to 48. And if it doesn't hold, then obviously you're wrong and it's just going to keep on going and you got to take your stop. But the odds seem to be best to try to buy that, not for a big push, but for a profit-taking swing in a range type of trade. And that minor low that just shakes out the lows and gets the turtles to jump in, traps them, and then can squeeze back. So that was the basis of that opening range that we thought should be played. And this chart shows really how far overdone we have become already. So it doesn't mean you can't hit the bounces. I think we should, with no expectation of taking out the lows, just a trend type of trade going with the flow. And it is a two-way day, in my opinion, meaning that buyers and sellers today will be active. Buyers that are bottom fishing, and obviously trend traders that say, hey, you got to show me. Okay, you take out my stop, I'll try it again. And so the dynamic that we've talked about for this first range, pretty clear. So we're range trading, and I'm going to use the notion in here right now that the longs are going to want to try to get back up above that 70 area and try to test 75s. And so far, no luck, but a good swing for the first swing. And so far, the longs have defended their turf in that 50 area. It's a 2-minute chart. RTH, come a long way, obviously. Not thinking of anything. If you're range type trading, you should be playing hit and run. Risk 2, make 2. Trailers you win with. And a perfect example of this first range that we thought would be appropriate based on this chart. Short side got to be paid by the 52s, we said, the 48s. Longs will probably be trying to buy that zone. To the double bottom. You know, a marginal low, 1 point. That does not break the low. This is where a lot of traders get confused. They think, okay, we broke it. But you want 1 or 2 more, and instead it gives back 20. So it's about risk and reward. And my thinking today, we're going to get a good sized bounce before we're done. But we're also going to get some consolidation. There's going to be a lot of range type trading because I think we are so overdone. And note the area of last month's and last week's support. This is support for now until broken. So we are at the low ends. So this equation down here is the same as those traders up here who were very, very giddy at this top saying, okay, shorts, how'd that work out for you? We're not going to be guilty of saying the same thing down here. Hey, longs, how'd that work out for you? Because the PPT will be active and they will be looking to try to hold on to things if they can today. So I say we've got a two-way day, and let's look at it as such. Anybody that's short side paid by 52s to 55s, obviously your first scale out, if you've got a couple, should be making sure that at 58s you're paid, and then stops down. Going to need a little zigging and zagging. This is a 2-minute chart. Reasonable first example. Don't want to wait for the 5s. Want to see something that's affecting it. So I'm going to look for a 2 or a 1 or a 3 before that 5. And keep an eye on NQ. We can see this is the box that I've articulated, I think is the primary fighting box right now, these two boxes. You want to be aware of this line down here because that would be an inverted head and shoulders. And we want to keep an eye on that first low overnight. Hey, if we can't stay underneath that, if this is like pushing a beach ball down, we can't stay under that. And the market is trying to bounce. So look for that as a clue today. And then obviously this is our most important idea for now at that 67, 42, 43 area. Anybody on the short side? Stops down. What was our next target? Anybody remember? What did I call out? I said next target if we break. In the 42, 43, correct. That was a preordained target that the system would select. Just based on proportion. Zeke's got the spreadsheet. All he needs to do is look at the next notch down on the spreadsheet. And this is where turtles get caught and they give it up instead of just understanding a rhythm. And who wants to average in on the short side? You make nothing if you do that. You're better off taking your stop out and look for the re-entry back here where we had talked about. Anybody's coming into the 42 support, paid for sure. Probably going to have to hit and release a couple of times. And a reminder, a lot of times the problem is you'll get the target, but how much do you have to give back to get what you want? Yes. And that's the next lower target that we talked about possibility today. Back into that 33s to 35s. Don't know that that's on the agenda or not. We're going to take it step by step. We got to get by 42s first. And I said a lot of trap traders. It's going to be two-way for now. Market is trying to establish a range to stabilize. Testing for support. All the traders that were knocked out, they've been trapped. In the market, day off, basically came back up, knocked out some stops, and then is gone without traders. And that's what we call fuzzy logic, because we had a electronic high back up in a close at 18, whereas we had no 2 over here. So it skews it, makes it a little bit fuzzy in terms of how distinct you can be. But still, the 42 to 43 showed up, as the target. Actually, 41.75, so I'm calling it 42. And then that 33 that Zeke talks about. And those we put down last night. We already knew last night these would be next potential areas. And these are support targets. You got to break through them to get to the next level. So there's a 5-minute chart. I'm going to put it back on the twos because that chart's pretty good. And I like trend trades. Like I said, if this was a bull market, short in the hole, you should get your head taken off. And you will at one point today. They'll zing one. They always do. So hit and run works as well as anything really in this type of an environment. Try to find the range. And obviously assume that longs are going to be trying to push when shorts are taking profits. That's when PPT loves to juice it a bit. I think take care, Don. I think the first things first, we need to stabilize. I think we need hit and run type trading just because of how far we've come. And that's the idea. Both sides have merit today. I just prefer trend trades normally. There are times when you sense a good trade coming and you say, okay, it's maybe a 20 or 30 point trade. But ultimately, you like to revert back to a trend trade if you can, till proven otherwise. And typically, people that are too early with their trying the contras, so they're going to guess wrong 5 times before the right once. Just the way it is. '62s to 65 should be a resistance zone. Anybody's trying to buy this low using a 42 as a support, you get yourself some traction, make sure you get paid. You get a dime out of it, make sure you get paid and bring your stops up. Range type trading. And this 62 zone, you can see how we flipped here overnight. So that'll be an important idea today, whether we stay under that or we get above that. Big resistance back here. We take that out, the low is probably in for the day. Cannot stress how important it is on new lows to get paid, because the market tends to back and fill. It's not always just a straight line, 100 points. You know, everybody thinks that this is the way the market moves all the time. It establishes that range, and then we back and fill. And we're keeping an eye on 30-minute chart. I'm dropping back to a 15. Note the zone that we are in right now. Big target for today is down here. Don't know that we'll get it. I'd be back in the 33 area, 35. So that's, we said this morning, let's consider that our support till proven otherwise. And make sure you're paid by 42 ahead of that. So this is the region that we're in, the predictive model. And let me put this back to a 15. Our base chart is 15. You can see how good this was at this double. It's blue line. And once we start to penetrate and get above it, then we know that the market is bouncing more and you got to revert back to like a 30-minute chart. So far, this has been gold. This has been a license to print money. Two-way day, but like I said, when I'm looking at a chart like this and in this type of a market, my preference is to go with that trend and then look for a contra a bit later because you know you're going to get one. But first, you want traders to have to pay up. All those traders that were going the wrong way. Then you catch the late shorts, and then you squeeze them. So this is the range that we're in right now, based on a predictive model. And based on this chart last night, gave me some confidence. Say, make sure that you are paid at 92s. Because this 95, remember, this was that prior low at the end of the day, that 96. So by keeping this underneath that traps traders and they have to pay up. This is the squeeze trade from here by not allowing this to get back up there. At the time, we'd said make sure you're paid 92s, and probably entry zone is going to be in that 89 to 91 area. You know, if you're coming short. So far, that trade has worked pretty well, and we're making lower highs, lower lows. Range type trading right now. Market is ahead of itself, and so you need time for the moving averages to catch up. And we're going to keep an eye today now on what? That first low. Above it, we're bouncing. Below it, we're trying for new territory. So let's call it 50. Keep it simple. Two-way day. Just because of the oversold nature. And we've called for hit and run this IB if you're playing. We'll just line it up there for now. But what this is depicting is that first low on the bounce, holds, and then penetrates and comes through. So that's an area, a pivot area, just a natural pivot area based on that 62 area. And this is our printed range for the opening rotations. And you can see the rotational pivot game. Right? Down, up, shake out, shake back above. And anybody's looking at the middle trades in through here at 55 area. So that's why you should be paid 52s to 55s on the way back up. The market has a distinctive rhythm, especially the E-mini. But right now, it doesn't matter about 85 or 95 or 212 or whatever. What matters is the current range. And we'll try to put this in perspective with other charts. But for now, this is all you need to focus on. Good day traders, that's what they do. They look for patterns, they look for ideas. The fellows that are on Twitter calling for 100-point targets here and 1,000-point targets there, they miss the opportunity to do this every day. and partly because they don't know how to do it. And we're going to keep an eye. You see this neckline, it's not perfect, but you draw it through a couple of points. When that breaks, that's the trigger. That opens the door, opens the door, opens the door. We get a little bit of a bounce, and then we resume. And I had said the other day about circuit breakers. Maybe that's why they've taken the day off on Wednesday, and turned out to be true. Needed something to stall this type of a move. And in a bear market or a corrective market, you expect sharp bounces, and then you take your stop outs and you try one more time. And this is an example of that. This bounce did not go very far relative to this size move. And the guys that are been jumping up and down about how's that bears, we're never ever going to get another pullback again. You just can't trade that way. It may be fun, it may be entertainment on Twitter, but it's certainly not the way you can take money out of the market, because your mind is so biased. And a lot of those traders never make any calls about levels. All they do is taunt the bears and whatever. But this has been a very fast, sharp sell. And market's still searching for support. We have to assume this low is support until broken. And you know what? If not, then we're going lower. For now, my assumption is that 42s are trying to hold because that was our first primary target today. Already set up. Because of the length of the move, it's already established. You get within a point or two of it, that's the hardest part. So do you give back 8 or 10 or 12 to get 2 more? That's always the problem in this business. So you get to a neighborhood, and if your stop gets hit, take it out and cool off, and then look for another trade. Best we can do.